Today, drag racing is a highly organized sport, and its origins are also part of American folklore. It started on the streets of California in the years after the Second World War. Teenagers took family cars, which were cheap and plentiful in America, stripped them down to the essentials, souped up the engines, and turned them into hot rods. With nowhere to race legally, they met usually at night to compete in secret. Many early street racers were soon in trouble with the law. To get them off the streets, the police encouraged the young drivers to organize proper race meetings. But it took time to curb them all.
Both of my parents worked hard. They weren't aware of what I was doing, but I was a street racer in the early 50s. And little did I know in 1958 what this was going to turn into. And later, and a few years later, after I got tired of running from the police cars, I went to my first organized racetrack, which was, by today's standards, a total outlaw racetrack. But that's how I got started, and I stuck with it.
A new type of racing was born. To grow, it had to organize and publicize itself. The NHRA, the National Hot Rod Association, was formed in 1951.
A first step that we made after we had come up with some reasonable classes and procedures was to send our safety safari across the United States, which we did in 1954 and 55 and 56. And they went out with the total equipment that they needed to produce a first-time event. They went into communities across the United States and working with the local car clubs and in concert with the law enforcement and civic groups, they produced, demonstrated the first quarter-mile drag race in many of these communities. This was a sort of a Johnny Appleseed campaign where they went in and they planted the seed, they tried to teach the local car clubs and left hoping they'd remember enough of what they had learned in that one weekend. So in that way, we were able to establish drag racing operations and facilities in locations throughout North America.
The formula was simple. Two cars raced each other from a standing start in a straight line for a quarter of a mile. Drag races last seconds rather than hours, but these noisy sprints packed in the crowds. They could see the whole race, and they relished the closeness of danger.
Parker swerves off the strip and cartwheels into the air. He scatters parts all over the area. Luckily, all he got was a scratch on his forehead.
Drag racing is a participation sport. At the national finals, there are classes and races for the many amateur enthusiasts as well as the top professionals. There's almost a family atmosphere among those who take part in drag racing. They're part of a close-knit and loyal brotherhood of enthusiasts.
Oh, I started in the 60s, got into hot rod cars, and I really enjoyed them, and I've done it ever since. I've been drag racing since '64. And, you know, it keeps you off the streets and it keeps you from doing a lot of things in life that wouldn't be good for you. So it's worked out good for us.
Racing is a very addictive sport. And most of them we've raced over a 15, 20-year period, raced each other. It's sort of like a little family. Most of us, we all got regular jobs, you know, 40-hour work week. And all this right here we do strictly on the side. We're not professionals. And everybody you see here today, they'll have to be at work tomorrow morning.
Got a lot of good friends that we meet out here every weekend, and it's like going and having a party every weekend. We see the same people over and over, and we have a good time.
Some people drink beer, some people race horses. This is what we do for fun as a family, and we all seem to enjoy it.
My grandson, Michael. Anybody special?
There are over 20,000 amateurs with drag racing licenses, but the top professionals can be numbered in just hundreds.
Better be.
They're $6.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
For the crowd, one of the most spectacular events is the funny car class. The fuel they use is nitromethane. Funny cars have a shape based on an American stock model, but the similarity stops there.
These cars are very exotic. Mine's an Oldsmobile, and you're talking about a chrome ollie chassis, a very expensive. You're talking about a $150,000 race car sitting there ready to run, and I've got 3 of them. We use the term exotic because of the involvement, the nitromethane. I mean, you're talking, $1,200, $1,300 a drum for a drum of nitro. Now, this car, you put 15 gallons in it in 5 seconds. It's gone. We're talking about a race car, understand, that's like the space shuttle. This thing leaves with 4 Gs from the starting line. Unbelievable. It'll set you back. If your visor ever opened, it'd roll your eyeballs. It'd take a week to get them back in your head. You're talking about a car that goes from a dead stop to the end of a quarter mile in 5 seconds or less. It's like a bullfight. People go to see a show. They didn't come here to watch us sing, tell jokes. They come here to see us perform. And in the back of their minds, they know at these speeds somebody can get hurt. Nobody wants to see anybody hurt, but it's part of the deal, and that's what makes it exciting.
In the top class of the sport are the top fuel cars. They're named after the potent cocktails which their engines burn. They're built for speed with no concessions to style. These are the cars most drag racers want to drive.
When I was about 11 years old, I went to this race, the U.S. Nationals in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I saw a race, and I said, that's what I want to do with my life. Someday I want to drive a top fuel dragster. So when I was 16, I started racing stock type cars, regular slow cars, and just progressed over the years. And every couple of years I would go faster and faster into a different class, and I worked up through gas cars and alcohol supercharged dragsters and alcohol funny cars. Then about 10 years ago I started running top fuel dragsters. Basically right now we run the kings of the sports, they call them. They're the world's fastest wheel-driven car. They can accelerate a 1,900-pound car from 0 to 290 miles per hour in less than 5 seconds from a dead start.
Well, I think that it takes a special person to go from 0 to 280 miles an hour in 5 seconds. I don't think that's easy to do. We pull 4.5 to 5 Gs on a run, which is 4.5 to 5 times the force of gravity against your body. The space shuttle only does 2.5, 3. There are a lot of things that you have to do, and you do have to have the ability to control one of these cars at 280 miles an hour and to make quick decisions because you don't have a lot of time to ponder what you're going to do next. Racing is a mental sport, not a physical sport. Even though it's considered a sport, we're not physical athletes, we're mental athletes. And you have to be able to control yourself mentally and to be able to slow everything down so that you're not overwhelmed by what's happening to you. You're able to make good judgments and good calls in a very short amount of time. That's what makes a good race car driver, someone who reacts quickly and reacts the right way.
At this level, drag racing is a high-technology sport. The engine in a top fuel car produces 4,000 horsepower, 50 times the output of an average family car. Each engine costs more than a luxury car. Top teams have 3 for each dragster. Drag racing is about finding the best way to transfer huge amounts of power from the engine through the tires to the track without wasting it by spinning the wheels and burning the rubber. They call it putting the power on the pavement. It's achieved through a combination of special tires and sophisticated clutches which release the engine's energy as effectively as possible. Even though a race lasts only 5 seconds, the strain on every part of the car is enormous.
Change ignition systems now. Okay.
After each run, a team of race mechanics strip down the engine. Every part is minutely examined and replaced if necessary. Then the engine is reassembled, race again, all in 90 minutes.
Just looked at the cylinder walls. Everything looks good out there. Well, I'm looking for scuff on the rings. The piston, the marks that you see on them, got there over time, you know.
To get every last ounce of power out of the engine, performance is monitored by an onboard computer. It is compared with previous runs and system.
The computer takes all the guesswork out for us here. We know what the temperatures are supposed to be, what those to be, basing those off of the runs that we set the national records with. We only know how to go as quick as those runs. We'll continuously try different setups or different engine combinations to improve, but 9 times out of 10, they're no better. It only takes that one time to make it go a little quicker, and all of a sudden, all of your data is updated to the setup that makes you go quicker and faster.
With such dependence on the computer, some people have begun to question the importance of the...
You know, you can't win the Kentucky Derby on Joe's mule. And way here, you can't win the U.S. National. Won't run good no matter how good of a driver you are. It's a combination. You've got to have a good car and you've got to have it. And there's been a lot of skepticism about whether or not we're very important anymore. But I've lost several races because my competitor did a better job of driving their car than I did. So the drivers are certainly important.
Drag racing is a successful combination of amateur enthusiasts and high-cost professionalism, with its democratic, unique tradition of motorsport.